What's up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Guess who's back? So with World Cup just a couple weeks away, we're going to do yet even more updates to Grubbworm to make it just a little bit better and fix some stuff that's tore up on the car. So one thing, now that we're at the back of the car, some of you may have seen the video of the parachute getting ripped off the car. This is because somehow the loop of the cord got wrapped around their push bar pin here that they typically leave in the car. But lesson learned for them, they're going to be pulling this pin out, because I don't know how it happened, but somehow the cord got wrapped around here, and whenever the chute popped, it pulled on the back of the pin here when it should have been pulling by the loop on the bushing here, and it basically ripped the cord in two, and the parachute went flying off the back of the car, and they didn't have a parachute. Well, when it did that, it bent the little sleeve that holds the pin in, because it's not really made to be pulled out, it's made to push the way the gussets are and stuff like that. So we got to fix that and get that back in working order. We're also going to be adding some fasteners to the back of the window here. You can see all the Lexan windows on these cars, they flop in the wind, and it does a lot of flopping at over 200 miles an hour based on the GoPro footage they've seen. And lastly, we're going to be upgrading the downpipe to a titanium unit. Check this out. So what was a round downpipe is now turned into an egg. The aluminum is getting so hot it is deforming, and it's, if you can't see down in there, but the trim ring has almost cut completely through the pipe where the pipe is flexing down. Now this is 11 gauge aluminum, and this is what we typically use on all of our drag car exhaust systems, especially turbo. And we've never had a problem, but we've never had really somebody push the combo as much as Jonathan is pushing this one. So we've got a support rod here that keeps it from, you know, slamming down against the fender when he's on the two-step, but it's bending the tab here, it's bending the chassis tab, and I know a lot of that is because it's losing grip right here. If you remember on videos past, the heat shrinks the flange and eventually it loses its gripping force from the clamp. You can see it's almost out of threads right there. So we're going to be upgrading to titanium, and that's going to fix all that. Show you over here, we've got some stuff from Tycon, which we normally get our titanium stuff from them, but this time they didn't have any 5-inch tubing, so the guys at Titanium Dynamics, they hooked us up with some 5-inch tubing, and also some pretty sweet purge plugs. Also give us this nice little O2 sensor bung with a saddle on it, so we don't have to weld the gussets on that we normally do. And here we got our flange. So expensive upgrade, but this is going to take care of all the distortion in the pipe. The titanium is going to take the heat a lot more, and we'll just take the downpipe off that's on the car, and he can have it for backup in case maybe he hits the wall or something like that and messes up the end of the pipe. He can put the aluminum one back on where the car will look good again. So gonna have backup parts for everything whenever we get done. So let's get all this tore apart, and I'll show you the pipe what it looks like whenever we get it off, and then we'll get started making this thing up. So now that we've got the downpipe off, let's check out how mean he's been to it. So if you look down the pipe here, it's staying pretty round until it gets right here to where the tab is. And the pipe is pulled up to an oval where it's been taking this tab and pulling the pipe up. Where the pipe's trying to come down, the tab's being held by the rod. So it's pulled the pipe in an oval here, which has made it skinny right here. You can see it widens back out here. So then we see the bottom where the trim ring has been. Check that out. This is where the pipe has stretched enough right here where this tab and pulled the pipe into an oval and let it come down and get on the trim ring, which is stainless steel, and it has melted. Which anybody that knows anything about mandrel bends, the pipe is 11 gauge pipe, but it's not really 11 gauge thickness on the outside of the bend. That's where the material is the thinnest, where it's stretched whenever they bend it. So you're not getting true thickness of 11 gauge or 120 on the outside of the bend. That's why on your titanium elbows, they are formed elbows. They're not mandrel bent, so the thickness is the same all the way through. But when you mandrel bend something, you stretch it on the outside and it becomes a lot thinner on the outside. So that's what we're running into here, is the material is thinner on the outside of the bend, so it gets hot a lot faster and it's a lot more, I guess, pliable and soft. But that's just crazy. Still good though. It didn't blow out, but that's what he was afraid of. He just didn't want it to melt all the way through and start melting his fender going down the track. So you can keep this for a backup. It's kind of aggravating to get out with the hot side on, but we got it out, and time to make a titanium one. So just like with any of the mock-up process that you've seen me do on the videos, this is no different. This is going to be the new tip that comes out, or the bullhorn. Obviously this is a lot tighter radius than what, but don't roll off the table. There you go. We have a 7.5 inch radius that we use on this downpipe. These are 1D, which means they are 5-on-5. The problem with that is getting the same routing with the tighter radius and not making it look blocky. So I've got some titanium screeder scrap pieces that are just taped together just to make up the length. This is left over from my car build, from Jared C7, a couple things that we had, just some piping left over. So I've taped these together. I did have a couple of their laser cut pie cuts from Tycon. So a couple pie cuts, and then this straight length with this on the end, and we are where we need to be from where the pipe is now on the car. So that part's mocked up, and we put a straight piece in, and it's going to end up being perfect. So this is our new straight piece from Titanium Dynamics. We're going to cut this to the exact length as our scrap pieces that we've cobbled together here. And that way we know we're going to make one cut, it's going to be right, and there's not going to be any mistakes, because titanium is really expensive. You don't want to be making any kind of miscuts. That's what we're going to do now, is we're going to take this apart, measure this length from here to here, and we're going to cut one piece out of that long piece, and that'll be what we need. Got everything welded up now. Definitely a major improvement on the look over the beat up aluminum piece. You can see in the video I did have a chance to use the trailing cup I got from Brad Harmer at TIG Aesthetics. I'll show you right there. This is an awesome little piece. It goes around any number 16 cup, and I had to pull out the dual regulator. Fortunately, I had one of these things in the back room, but after I got all that set up, I was able to weld pretty much as fast as I do on stainless steel. I could kind of go until I had to rotate the pipe without stopping pretty much. So it did speed up the process a ton doing the titanium. It's just something to get used to, you know, the extra weight of it hanging off the torch and the extra line draped around there. You know, it's probably more suited for somebody that's running a rotisserie, but it did help with this big 5-inch pipe to where I could pretty much just keep rolling with it all the way around and not have to slow down. But it does eat the crap out of some gas. This little O2 saddle really turned out good. Really like the way that welded up. See, this is our little rod end hanger. I did a double tab instead of a single this time, to where it's less likely to bend and distort, and it'll be a lot stronger that way. As far as the weight difference between these two, as they sit right now, the titanium is only 4 ounces lighter than the aluminum. Aluminum is lighter than titanium if you do thickness for thickness. So this aluminum is basically 120 wall all the way through. The titanium, this varies. You've got 079 for the formed elbows, you've got 047 for the straight and the pies. So you've got thicker sections here, but none of it is even close to as thick as the aluminum. So there's a lot more aluminum material right there than what is here. But the titanium, it just in this application and configuration is 4 ounces lighter, just pipe for pipe. So like Jonathan said, ounces turn into pounds. Another thing I forgot to mention is these purge caps that they sent from Titanium Dynamics. They worked really good for the 5-inch. 5-inch seems to be the one that I always struggle with getting closed off, because it's so big, it's going to take so much gas to fill it up, and I'm always putting aluminum foil or something over the end of it. But these worked really awesome for doing this. So appreciate those guys sending us this set to try out. So if you need something for 5-inch, definitely give those guys a shout, because these install really easy and they hold on the pipe really good. They've got a threaded piece there so you can put your fitting in there. So just a awesome little piece for purging. So we blued the tip on this thing a little bit at Jonathan's request. He asked me, he said, because we're doing titanium, does that mean we're gonna blue the tip a little bit? I said, I wasn't planning on it. I said, do you really want that? He said, well, yeah. I said, you know that's a little bit ricer, don't you? So, just like he don't like hood exits, I'm not really a fan of the blue exhaust look, but he wanted it done, so we done it. And this is really the first titanium I've ever tried to blue. So he said just put a little ring around the tip. I guess just to let everybody know it's titanium, right? He's a ricer, he just don't know it. So we're gonna put this thing back on. Everything's done. And this part of the project will be done, then we'll move on to the rest of the stuff. So we're back here Monday, we've got the hatch off, and we're making a support for the rear window. And what we've done, we've took a 1/2 inch piece of tubing and just bent it where it's kind of a U shape, welded it straight to the top of the cage. It's not fully welded yet, it's just tacked in so we can fit everything. And this will support the window from flopping so much with the wind. What it's doing, it's actually breaking the Lexan around all these other fasteners because the window has so much flex in the middle. So if we can reduce the amount of flop that it has, it'll make all this stuff more secure. So when he gets those tabs shortened up, or the fastener tabs, we'll get those tacked on, get it set back on, and test fit everything, and then we'll fully weld it up. So everything's finished up. Before we went to lunch, went ahead and put some rattle can on it to prevent any rust. Now it's dry and we're going to put the hatch back on. This job will be done. We also put a little piece of stainless in where he did a little hole saw action in the back of the car here to let some of the air out. So that wasn't really worth mentioning in the video, but that's what we did. Let's put the hatch back on. So I hit it with some glass cleaner because I couldn't stand how nasty it was, but now you can kind of see how rigid that is. back window's going nowhere. Now if it flops, it's going to be between here and here, because it's definitely not going to move in the middle anymore. So that should really help make it not crack as bad around the other fasteners. So that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Grubbworm repair, Grubbworm upgrade, whatever you want to call it. You know, it'll be back here in a few months, so just get ready for another video. See you guys.